Something unsettling has begun circling across the country. Thousands of people over 65 are suddenly asking the same question. Where has this talk of a new $2,500 charge from HMRC come from, and could it affect me in 2025? The uncertainty is spreading quickly, and for many people living on tight pensions or fixed incomes, the fear is very real. One unexpected bill can disrupt an entire year's planning, and no one deserves to be left guessing when it comes to their tax obligations. Right now, headlines, forwarded messages, and snippets of official-sounding claims are creating a storm of confusion. Some people are being told they might face new charges tied to their pension income. Others are worried about tax code adjustments arriving without warning, or that the freeze on allowances is quietly pulling more over-65s into unexpected payments. And in households already stretched by rising living costs, the idea of a sudden four-figure hit feels like a genuine threat, even before anyone knows whether the information is accurate. This is where things become critical. When rumors grow faster than explanations, they turn into worry. And when worry grows faster than facts, people start making decisions based on fear rather than clarity. If you're over 65 or you care for someone who is, you need straight answers, not speculation, not dramatic headlines, and certainly not half-true posts circulating on social media. You deserve to know exactly what is actually happening with HMRC, what isn't happening, and what to do right now to protect your income for 2025. The reality is this. HMRC has been making changes that affect older taxpayers, including allowance freezes, new thresholds pulling more pensioners into tax, and unexpected adjustments to tax codes. These real-world shifts are already causing surprise bills, recalculated payments, and letters that catch people off guard. That's why understanding the truth behind these $2,500 claims matters. Not because the rumor is confirmed, but because misunderstanding your tax position can cost you money you never intended to lose. So stay with me. In the next few minutes, we'll break through the noise, uncover what's real, and walk through exactly what every UK resident over 65 needs to check before 2025 arrives. This might be the one piece of information that spares you a costly shock. So let's begin right at the heart of this, because the longer these rumors sit unchallenged, the more unnecessary anxiety they create. The first thing that needs to be understood is that HMRC's tax system is not changing overnight in some secretive way where every person over 65 suddenly wakes up to a brand new charge. What is actually happening is far more subtle, far more slow-moving, and, in a strange way, more frustrating than the dramatic headlines suggest. Instead of one sudden new bill being dropped onto pensioners, the real pressure is coming from something that started quietly a few years ago and is continuing right through 2025, the freezing of tax allowances. And although it doesn't make as catchy a headline as $2,500 charge, it's genuinely pulling more older people into unexpected tax payments every year. Many over 65s who never used to owe a penny are now finding themselves receiving letters, adjustments, or bills they didn't anticipate, all because the threshold moved downwards in real terms while their pensions nudged upwards. That's where the confusion begins. People receive a letter from HMRC telling them their tax code has been changed, or that they've underpaid, or that they need to watch out for adjustments to their pension income. For someone living on a fixed income, especially those relying on the state pension and a small occupational pension, every unexpected message feels like a warning bell. And when that message arrives without context, or during a time when you're already dealing with rising food prices, higher energy costs, and the general feeling that everything is creeping upward, it becomes easy to assume the worst. That's why this rumor of a specific £2,500 charge gained so much traction. Many people felt it fitted perfectly with the pattern they were already experiencing: more tax, less clarity, and the sense that older people are being squeezed from every direction. But this is where a moment of calm helps, because while there is no universal new £2,500 charge, there are changes and trends that can lead to payments of that size for some individuals, not as a new policy, but as the byproduct of the frozen personal allowance, increased private pension income, or adjustments from previous years. In other words, the rumor isn't accurate, but the fear behind it is understandable. Too many people are being caught off guard, and that's the real issue. This is why understanding how HMRC calculates pension tax, especially when multiple sources of income are involved, becomes incredibly important for 2025. Let's talk about how these surprises happen in real life, because the mechanics of it are often hidden behind formal language. If you receive the state pension plus a small workplace pension or a private pension you draw down from, HMRC has to calculate how much tax to collect from the right place. Since the state pension is not taxed at the source, HMRC adjusts the tax on your other pension to cover what you owe. When your combined income goes over the personal allowance, even by a small amount, the tax code on the other pension changes. If they don't get the numbers quite right in time, you end up with an underpaid payment. When it's found later, it arrives as a bill. For some people, especially those with fluctuating drawdowns, the correction can be hundreds, or, in more complex cases, thousands. Again, not a new charge, not a penalty, but the result of HMRC trying to balance the books after the fact. The freeze of the personal allowance is what's dragging more pensioners into this situation. In previous years, the allowance tended to rise roughly with inflation, but now it's fixed until at least 2028. Meanwhile, the state pension has gone up with the triple lock. Occupational pensions have risen slightly. Private pensions have resumed higher payments after years of caution. And suddenly, people who never reached the tax threshold before are crossing it simply because the threshold stood still while the income went up. This creates tax where there wasn't tax before, and adjustments where there never used to be any. That's where the confusion comes from, not from a new £2,500 fee, but from the slow creep of more people falling into the taxable range. And when this happens, people feel blindsided. They say they feel punished for saving, punished for working hard, punished for doing things the right way. They say the system feels like it shifted behind their back. Many of the messages I've seen from older viewers talk about losing sleep over letters that use complex wording, or worrying about whether they've made a mistake when in reality, nothing was done wrong at all. The real mistake is in how these changes are communicated. Quietly, in small lines of text, or in codes that most ordinary people never had to worry about before they retired. It becomes a puzzle at a time in life when people simply want stability. So let's break some of that stress down. If someone receives a letter about an underpayment, it isn't automatically a sign that a huge bill is coming. Often the amount can be spread across future tax code adjustments. Some people won't even notice the monthly difference. Others can request payment plans, and in many cases, the underpayment is far smaller than the fear that arrives with the envelope. But because these letters usually arrive unexpectedly, and because the language is stiff, it sends people straight into worry mode. If more older people understood why these adjustments happen, fewer would fall into panic. That's why clarity matters. It's not just about numbers, it's about peace of mind. Another point that's contributing to the anxiety is the way HMRC reviews the interaction between state pension increases and private pension income. When the triple lock boosted state pension amounts, HMRC had to adjust tax codes for millions of people. Some were adjusted correctly and swiftly, some were not. In 2024 and 2025, this has led to what many people describe as surprise deductions. Again, not a new policy, not a fine, but a recalculation. The process is mechanical, not personal. But for someone already juggling expenses, the timing can feel harsh. Let's also address another element that's been feeding these rumors, the fear that the tax on pensions is becoming harsher or more complicated. It's not that there is a new specific charge, but the overall environment has become more confusing due to overlapping policies. The state pension age is rising. Benefits linked to age have changed. Cost of living payments come and go. Allowances remain frozen. And the winter fuel payment changed for many people. When information arrives that's inconsistent or incomplete, it's natural for people to fill the gaps with whatever they've heard, whether from friends, newspapers, social media, or letters that look more alarming than they actually are. When you add an internet rumor claiming 2,500 charges for over-65s, people connect dots that were never meant to be connected. But here's the reassuring truth. You can protect yourself from these surprise adjustments simply by understanding the way your income is arranged. Many people don't realize they are allowed to contact HMRC and ask for a tax code check at any time. Many don't know that they can request online access to see exactly what income HMRC believes they are receiving and whether it matches reality. And many don't know that small errors, like outdated occupational pension information, can lead to significant miscalculations that are entirely fixable. This isn't about becoming an accountant. It's about staying one step ahead of mistakes that often happen automatically without you noticing. One of the most important things every pensioner can do heading into 2025 is check all sources of income listed under their tax account. You'd be surprised how many people discover that HMRC is working with outdated numbers. Maybe the private pension increased slightly. Maybe a small annuity ended. Maybe a job ended years ago but still appears in the system. These small errors accumulate into tax code miscalculations, and those miscalculations evolve into unexpected letters. It's not your fault. It's simply the nature of a system that still depends on information being updated manually or across multiple organizations that don't always communicate quickly. This doesn't mean anyone should feel ashamed or confused. It means the system needs regular attention, the same way you'd check a bank statement or update a utility bill. And once you learn to do that, once you feel comfortable asking questions, requesting checks, and clarifying your tax position, you regain control. That's where confidence grows, and where the fear behind these rumors starts to fade. Some older viewers also worry that contacting HMRC will cause trouble, or that asking questions will somehow trigger extra checks, but that simply isn't how the system works. Asking for clarity is your right. The people who work there are used to dealing with questions about pension income. It's one of the most common topics they handle. The more proactive you are, the less likely you are to end up with a shock in the post. And in many cases, people who call end up discovering they were due a rebate or adjustment in their favor. While we're clearing up misconceptions, let's talk about the idea that older people are targeted more than others. It's understandable that many feel this way, especially with the cost of living pressures of the last few years, but HMRC's system doesn't specifically focus on age. It focuses on income types and thresholds. Older people are affected more simply because they are more likely to rely on multiple small income streams that interact with the tax system in complex ways. Younger workers often have one employer, one source of income, and one code. Pensioners often have 2, 3, or 4 sources, and balancing those is where issues arise. This complexity is what leads to the emotional weight of all this. People want to enjoy their retirement, not decode tax calculations. They want to budget with confidence, not worry about a letter arriving out of nowhere. And this is why videos like this matter, because a calm conversation, a few clear explanations, and a bit of reassurance can make the entire situation feel far more manageable. When the mind understands something, it stops imagining worst-case scenarios. Looking ahead to 2025, the biggest factor affecting older taxpayers isn't a new $2,500 charge, but the continued freeze on allowances and the natural increases in pension income. It's the gap between those two movements that causes the pressure. And until the allowance is raised again, this pattern will continue. That's why staying informed is your strongest tool. A handful of small checks, a bit of awareness, and a willingness to question anything that doesn't look right can save you from unnecessary stress. The other crucial thing is community. Older people often rely on each other for information, but rumors spread quickly among friends, neighbors, and family. The best thing you can do is share accurate information. If someone tells you they've heard about a $2,500 charge for all over 65s, you now know that isn't correct. You know the real issue is the allowance freeze and adjustments, not a new policy targeting older people. You can reassure them and maybe encourage them to check their tax code before the new financial year begins. One calm conversation can save someone weeks of anxiety. And above all, remember this. You have more control over your tax situation than you think. Once you understand the landscape, nothing feels unexpected. Once you know the signs, the letters won't feel mysterious or intimidating. And once you get the facts, clear, calm, and straightforward, you'll see that the scariest part of this whole topic is the rumor, not the reality. As 2025 approaches, you deserve clarity, respect, and confidence. This video is here to give you exactly that. If something doesn't look right, you're allowed to question it. If a rumor worries you, you're allowed to ask for the truth. And if you ever receive a letter or message that makes your heart race, you now know that the first step is not panic, it's understanding. Once you understand, everything becomes manageable. And that's the power of having good, honest information in your hands.